at the end of the day, it's not the first time it had ever happened that a project was horribly adapted in Hollywood. It's not the last time it's going to happen. It might even happen to us again.
Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the greatest animated shows of all time. It has incredible characters you care about who grow over the course of the whole series. Aang started as a little bitch who cried all the time. Well, all my people got genocided.
Genocide, schmenocide.
But by the end, he was a badass warrior who saved the world.
This kid is a fucking warrior!
Zuko went from a cruel villain to a hero, making for one of the greatest redemption arcs of all time. The animation is absolutely incredible, looking outright gorgeous in every frame. There's tons of visual gags and so much attention to detail, which enhances even the smallest jokes or moments. The action sequences were awesome. All of them had tension because we cared about what was happening. Because what's the point of having a set piece if you don't give a shit about what's going on? At that point, it would be a bunch of boring nonsense. But this show's greatest achievement was how it impacted the animation industry. Unlike other shows at the time, it wasn't afraid to explore mature themes. It was also great in terms of representation. The entire thing is a love letter to Asian cultures.
You know, we were really into Kung Fu, both practiced yoga, so we definitely brought that to the table when we started creating the show.
Real martial arts styles inspired each bending element.
The waterbenders, we more or less matched them to the style of Tai Chi. Tai Chi is less about strength and more about alignment, body structure.
The show does a great job at creating excellent female characters who anyone can look up to. They were never written as rewards for the male characters. Instead, they were treated as normal people who were confident and strong.
Yeah, and it's been satisfying too to have Katara and other female characters in the show that the fans really connect with.
The animation industry would not be the same without this show.
Avatar really redefined my perception of like the storytelling that could be put into a TV show.
Of course, with the show's success, Hollywood wants to milk it dry, which led us to The Last Airbender, one of the movies of all time.
My name is Aang, and I'm the Avatar.
I don't know what's going on with me and the critics of the United States, I gotta tell you.
They just don't get you.
They've never got me, and it's getting worse.
Fast forward a decade, and Netflix is taking a crack at it. But before it even came out, the showrunner pissed everyone off with his statements. Sokka wasn't gonna be sexist. The series would appeal to Game of Thrones fans. It was no longer just gonna be for kids. Even though the original series wasn't only for kids, the biggest fans are adult neckbeards. The worst thing going for this show was the original creators leaving the project. They gave a big statement. They basically said the show did not represent the integrity of Avatar. So, how's the actual series? It's a complete assassination of the original, made by people who do not understand any of the choices the original series made. And when I say that, I mean it. The writers misunderstand the most minor aspects. The characters have no growth because they were too scared to make them flawed. There's no sauce at all. The cinematography and music are bland, and the show treats you like an idiot, explaining every minor thing to the audience, which goes against the whole "this is a mature show and will appeal to Game of Thrones fans" nonsense. So let's get into it. Before I even talk about his character, I want to go over the actor. And this applies to most of them. You remember that scene where he finds Gyatso's dead body, his mentor? He feels guilty for his death. There was so much emotion, but in this show, Aang doesn't even shed a tear. Maybe Aster from Dexter should have been the director. She would have gotten more emotions out of him.
Look sad, retard.
All right.
But I blame the filmmakers more. When all of the performances are bad, it's usually the director's fault. Now, onto his actual character. Aang tells the audience what all of his traits are. He basically talks to the camera and tells us he loves to play.
I like to play airball and eat banana cakes and goof off with my friends.
But in the OG, it's communicated more efficiently.
Will you go penguin sledding with me?
A lot of time was dedicated to showing how playful Aang was. The penguin sledding scene is the earliest instance. This not only made him more likable because he was so much fun to watch, but it also strengthened his bond with Katara. She gets along with him pretty quickly because he brings something that she never experienced where she lived: fun. Giving our cast time to hang out and connect only helped to develop their characters. Another great example of this trait is in episode 4 on Kyoshi Island. The attention he's getting from girls and how much fun he's having blinds him to the fact that the Fire Nation is coming for them. This trait is a core part of his arc. He wants to be a kid and play around, but he's kind of forced to grow up because of the big responsibility placed onto him.
The thing I like most about Aang is that he's a regular kid. He doesn't obsess over his work and saving the world. He still has a good time with everything.
Removing all of these sequences does a huge disservice to his character. There's a reason for all of these side adventures. Another thing the show explores is how he can get through to people and connect with them, where he finds common ground between people who are fighting and gets them to put their differences aside. There's an entire episode showing this part of his personality. There's none of that shit in the remake. Instead, Katara explains it to the audience.
He knows how to connect, to get through to people like he did last night.
But to give this remake credit, one thing the show gets right about Aang is how selfless he is. There's a moment in season 1 where he can easily kill Zuko, but instead, he saves him. You know, the person that tried to kill him and his friends multiple times. That's how good he is. But they actually expand on this scene and it works. They bond over their shared love for calligraphy. Zuko even tells Aang how he makes his art so great, but most importantly, it shows how they have something in common, that being all the expectations placed onto them. Aang's pressured into saving the world, and Zuko is expected to capture the Avatar. There's a great moment where Aang gets Zuko to realize that Ozai is in the wrong, and that he can rise above the Fire Nation by showing compassion. You can tell that Zuko knows he's right but doesn't want to accept it, so he lashes out at him, because the last time Zuko showed compassion, he was punished for it. There's so much great stuff going on in this interaction. Aang and Zuko have some nice bonding moments that deepen their eventual friendship and only adds nuance to Zuko's relationship with his father. Great shit, guys. But they do remove an important scene where Aang's selflessness was displayed, which shows that even when Aang is wronged, he always considers the other person's emotions. Like when Katara lashes out at him because he mastered the water whip faster than she did. I'm not giving Katara shit for this because she's a child, but Aang quickly forgives her, understanding that she's just determined to learn waterbending and feels insecure in her abilities. But this becomes a really satisfying arc in which Aang motivates Katara to master the water whip. It's an awesome scene that forwards their relationship. This entire storyline is literally missing. God damn it. But the most important factor in Aang's character arc was the individual struggles that came with being the Avatar, such as being able to think outside of the box or navigating the spirit world, something he knows nothing about. In the live action version, he already knows everything. I see the logic behind that. It makes the story more efficient, but this makes the character less interesting because he has fewer mountains to climb. Say if he had already known about the spirit world, but the writers replaced that with something else that makes Aang struggle, I'd be more fine with it. But they don't, so he comes off as a pre-packaged master in ways. This exposes one massive flaw with this character. He has no flaws. The biggest example, and this is probably what breaks his character the most, is how he decides to leave the air temple. He left to cool off. In this show, it's actually not him running away from his problems. Also, he conveniently leaves when the Fire Nation attacks. It's not only hollow, it's stupid. Throughout the season, people in the show's universe keep calling Aang a coward who left them when they needed him most, but that's not what happened. He always intended on coming back. Then, throughout the season, he just whines about not letting his people down again over and over. There's no real arc there, just like with everything else. They insist on it. This was executed much better in the original. Aang overhears a conversation with Gyatso and the other monks. They talk about sending him away to complete his training. He gets upset because his whole childhood is basically ripped away from him. It even gets to the point where his friends no longer want to interact with him. So it makes sense why he would want to leave. He was only 12 and everyone expected him to save the world.
Being the Avatar, he has a lot of pressure on him because he's the only one in the world who can master all 4 elements, and he's the only one who can stop the war and make all the 4 nations friends again.
But Aang later learned from his mistakes and realizes that dwelling on it won't do him any good. There's nothing he could have done to protect his people from the Fire Nation. The only thing he can really do now is face everything head on. Just one writing choice takes away all the nuance from probably the biggest part of Aang's journey. He has no flaws, so there's no growth. Were they afraid that we wouldn't like him if he made immature decisions or mistakes? A huge part of Aang's character was the fact that he was only a kid. Naturally, he wasn't going to be mature enough to handle the responsibility of saving the world, which led him to do bad things. He sabotages Katara and Sokka's chances of seeing their father again by stealing the map leading to his location. It's obviously a horrible thing to do, but I get why he did it. He feels completely isolated in his quest and fears that someone will leave him again. Aang owns up to his mistake and they all make up. This is one of the things I love about the show. It displays a lot of emotions within the group. It makes their friendship feel more real. Sometimes with friends, you're gonna fight. Another instance is when he meets a firebending master. He is given extreme exercises, but Aang doesn't want to follow them because he's impatient, which makes sense given the fact that Sozin's comet is coming very soon, but his impulsivity ultimately hurts Katara. It hurts him deeply and he vows to never firebend again. Aang learns the consequences of his impatience. All it does is hurt you and everyone else. All of the great conflicts that help him grow as a character are gone. Not only is Aang himself less nuanced, the same goes for the relationships he has with everyone else. With him and Katara, it's similar. Unfortunately, we get less time with them, so the relationship feels hollow. A lot of their dialogue is them saying whatever is on their mind. The only good thing is that there's really no hint of a romance between them. I think that was my least favorite part of the OG because it kind of felt tacked on. Also, some of the dialogue is kind of creepy.
Because I'm trying to give you these backshots, girl. Ever heard of backbending?
But by far the worst relationship in this show is everything between him and Boomy. They immediately reveal who Boomy is. This removes any tension or danger that was originally present, stemming from not knowing why Boomy treated him the way that he did. So it's a nice surprise when it's revealed that all the trials Boomy put Aang through were done in earnest. They have a nice, genuine dynamic, and Aang learns to think outside the box. Here, Boomy doesn't even teach Aang anything. He yells at him and makes him do random trials without any specific lesson. They try to recreate the scene with the delivery system, but it doesn't mean shit because it wasn't established that's something they did together. Instead of a nice payoff that showed two friends reuniting after 100 years, it's random bullshit tacked onto the end. Overall, while some of Aang's personality traits are well represented, he's a complete shell of his former self. Not a single thing about his character is communicated in any clever way. Everything he needed to learn about being the Avatar culminates in nothing satisfying. He doesn't have any flaws to overcome. He doesn't even waterbend this whole cocksucking season. All of this leaves Aang completely broken. First, the actor who plays Sokka does a really great job. There are many moments where he captures Sokka's personality. He even sounds like him.
My first girlfriend turned into the moon.
What made Sokka so great was his sarcastic nature.
Right, and this is Katara, my flying sister.
And it's just his smartass. It's just fun to have that sort of like someone always has to say something about everything, you know.
He clearly understands that and made sure to retain this important part of his personality.
I think that something that I wanted to keep from the animated series is just like obviously like the comedy, the sarcasm.
It kind of makes up for the fact that he isn't as goofy as he was in the original. Not only is he one of the best actors in the show, but he's one of the best parts. He kind of elevates a bland character who's stripped away of anything that makes him special. The first being his inventor skills.
Just follow your nose to the place where the smell is coming from
and plug up the hole where the gas is escaping. You're a genius.
He's become a much more active element in the stories. He's actually helping out here. Because I remember earlier on, he just kind of putting the brakes on everything.
But for this remake, I cannot think of a single scenario where his intelligence has saved anyone. They vaguely go over his inventor skills, but it falls short because they don't spend too much time on it. He doesn't become more competent over the course of the season. I'd say he's too competent. In the first episode, he literally has no issue leading anyone in the village. It's like they put season 3 Sokka in season 1. I don't even know where he's supposed to go from here. It's insane how they can butcher such a simple character because they're too afraid to make him flawed. His flaws coupled with his goals are what make him compelling. Sokka's #1 desire is to be a leader, but he's not ready for it.
Sokka is kind of the brash leader of sorts, and he's always trying to take charge, and he's kind of got some good ideas sometimes, but he's very often failing.
There's many reasons for that. First off, he doesn't have the skills to motivate anyone in a battle. We see that in the first episode. Even Katara can't take him seriously.
You're the leader? But your voice still cracks.
It's easy to understand why people would feel this way since he hasn't shown himself to be a great leader yet. Another reason is that he's a hothead. In the second episode, he charges at the Fire Nation with no regard. He's kind of regarded. It's what allows him to have an arc. He becomes a better leader as the show goes on.
One other minor point about that last scene is that we were seeing Sokka kind of use the experience he's gained, and we kind of see that he's grown and that he's kind of how valuable he is to this effort.
But the remake doesn't have that, so he's kind of boring. His dynamics with others aren't as strong either. There's some nice funny banter with him and Katara from time to time, but other than that, they just bicker. It was way more nuanced in the original. Most of the time, they do bicker and crack jokes, but it slowly becomes clear they care about each other. When Aang accidentally burns Katara, he comes to help her. This shows when push comes to shove, he will always protect her. Then there's him and Suki. Honestly, she comes off as a jerk. Sokka was literally sucking her dick, but she decides to shit on him for no reason. She's also kind of creepy. Wow, they took one of the most likable characters from the show and turned her into an asshole creep. Sokka in the original was literally inspired to change his immature sexist views of women. There was some controversy over this, and to be fair, it was the actress who played Katara who said this was problematic, but I will say that sentiment still carries into the show's writing. They 100% toned it down. In the OG, he was baffled at the idea that a woman could be a great warrior, but he gets his ass kicked. Suki is 100% justified in that. He was being a dick, but Sokka apologized, realizing what he had done wrong, and it blossoms into a great relationship. Sokka learns a lesson about using someone else's strength against them, but Suki has a great line.
I am a warrior, but I'm a girl too.
Because of this, Sokka's view of women becomes a lot healthier, but his sexism doesn't come from a hateful place. Not that it justifies it. He's kind of been conditioned to believe in these fringe gender roles. He thinks that women should stay behind and men should lead. Not only does this aspect of his character help him mature, but it also plays a significant role in their romance as Suki begins to see what kind of person Sokka is. Here, their romance doesn't feel earned at all. The show insists that they are in love, but it's hard to identify what they even love about each other. It's very surface level. They also fuck up everything with him and Yue. They actually do have some nice chemistry, but unfortunately, much of the drama that prevented them from dating has been removed. In this version, somehow Yue was able to break off her marriage with Han, even though this is supposed to be a sexist society. In the original, Sokka and Yue loved each other, but couldn't be together because she had to marry Han. She couldn't break it off and didn't want to because she wanted to stay loyal to her people, which makes her an interesting character. As it shows, she sticks by her convictions.
Yue has a very strong sense of duty, which is good character quality.
It's insane how the people behind this project dare to call it mature, but skimp out on anything that adds interesting drama to the narrative. Overall, they royally destroyed Sokka. Other than an actor who delivers some good lines, he's a boring character with no room to grow. While in the animated series, they went out of their way to show his flaws, like his sexism and huge ego, then subvert our expectations of him by showing his intelligence and compassion for others. Since the writers were too afraid to make him flawed in any way, his arc suffers severely. Great job, guys. One of the things that made Katara so entertaining to watch was her fiery passion. One example is in episode 9. Basically, the premise of it is that Katara steals a waterbending scroll with all these moves. It may not be okay, but the motivations behind that choice make complete sense. Later in the episode, she's trying to practice the water whip, which is one of the moves in the scroll. She can't figure it out, but Aang gets good at it very quickly. Katara gets jealous and freaks out at him. It may not be alright, but I can totally understand. She is extremely passionate about waterbending. It makes sense that she would become jealous when she sees someone excelling. While this may be a nice part of her character, it's also a flaw in certain moments. Her fiery personality can cause her to lash out in situations, but the show makes this into a great arc for Katara. Later in the episode, Aang lifts her spirits. Katara does the water whip perfectly, saving the day.
Hey, you did the water whip.
And Katara admits she was wrong to steal the scroll, having learned a valuable lesson. Another example of her fiery personality is with Master Pakku. When they finally get to the water tribe, the waterbending Master Pakku refuses to train her because she's a girl, which obviously upsets her because she's been waiting her whole life for this opportunity, but she gets shut down instantly. When Aang hears this, he refuses to train with him, but Katara tells him that he should train. I actually think this says a lot about Katara. She was willing to sacrifice her lifelong dream for Aang to master another element because the world's safety depended on it. This shows that she knows what's important and cares about others, but later in the episode, Aang decides to teach Katara everything he's learned in secret, only for Pakku to catch them. Katara refuses to apologize, and all of this culminates in a fight between her and Pakku. We fully get to see how her skills have grown.
This is really the first time we see how much passion Katara has with her waterbending and seeing how much raw talent she has, kind of.
And she ultimately proves herself. It's such a satisfying culmination of everything that's happened throughout the season. All of the practice has finally paid off. Everything could have been for nothing if she hadn't done anything about it, but because Katara stood up for herself, she got the credit she deserved. Now she seems mildly upset at best. There's none of that drive. Her conflict is that she's been holding herself back her whole life, but in the original show, her driving motive was to build her skills, despite how much other people held her back. That is much better. Now, it may not seem like much of a difference, but it's quite drastic. Not only did she have to do the hard work of becoming a master, despite the people around her preventing her from doing so, she also had to work hard to be taken seriously. But in the remake, it's basically, I'm already awesome and I gotta show everybody. One version of Katara's arc has weight, while the other makes her a pre-packaged person who never has to work for anything.
What is the meaning of the name Katara?
It means girl boss.
Things like this really show they did not understand any choice made by the original, because they so easily missed the point of the smallest character motivations, which are big contributors to making the arc satisfying at all. Removing those things make the character stories feel like a wet fart. Like, she doesn't even need to prove herself to Pakku. She just whines enough until he changes his ways. But the OG executes this way better. It's revealed Katara's grandmother was supposed to marry Pakku, but she broke off the engagement and ran away. It's very obvious why Pakku is the way that he is. He keeps these sexist rules because he was directly hurt by somebody breaking them. Katara has compassion for him because she understands the struggle of feeling left behind. Ultimately, she inspires him to get over his trauma. He becomes a better person because of it. But now, he's a comical sexist without any nuance or reason behind his motivation. Wow, what a mature show. Reducing complex drama to a bunch of bullshit that's explored for 2 seconds. Not only did that show the passionate part of her personality, but it also showed her ability to inspire others, which they don't even bother to keep. Removing storylines that show this part of her, like in the Imprisoned episode, where Katara accidentally gets Haru, an earthbender, imprisoned because she encourages him to earthbend to save some civilians. Said civilian sells him out to the Fire Nation.
That's him! That's the Earthbender. Fuck this guy.
Who were looking for Earthbenders in the town where Haru lived. Katara feels enormous guilt for his capture. Also, she related to his relationship with Bending. They both use it to be closer to their families, even though they won't see them again. I just love how friendships that are only present for an episode are super fleshed out. Katara eventually comes up with a plan to be captured on the same ship as Haru. When she gets on, she tries to inspire the prisoners to revolt against the Fire Nation. It completely fails.
Let us fight for our freedom!
Eventually, Sokka and Aang devise a plan to move all the coal to where the Earthbenders are so they can defend themselves. The plan goes well. Haru and his dad escape and express their gratitude. Katara can help people at their lowest point because she relates to them. She's had everything taken away from her. All she wants to do is help anyone who's been through that. Her dedication to lifting people's spirits is one of the reasons she's so likable, but this part of her character leads to one of the most powerful scenes in the first season, which the remake fumbles. I'm talking about the Jet storyline. To be fair, the actor who plays him does a great job. He captures the original character's charisma. What I liked about the animated series was how they emphasized that they both share a desire to save or inspire others, and Katara slowly sees what kind of person he is. Sokka doesn't trust him because of how he treated a Fire Nation citizen, but then Katara turns on him because she realizes Jet took advantage of her, tricking her into water bending so he can flood a nearby town. It hurt to see someone take advantage of her kindness. In the remake, there's a similar setup. There's a nice scene where they talk about the people they lost to the Fire Nation. Jet gets Katara to remember good memories she had with her mom. It inspired her to improve her waterbending. It's not exactly the same, but it works. Unfortunately, some of the nuances of their dynamic are lost. I mentioned the conflict with Sokka. He tried to convince her that Jet isn't a good guy, but Katara wouldn't believe him until it's almost too late. Instead of that awesome shit, Sokka just doesn't like him. Katara and he bicker over it. Then she finds out who he really is. It feels rushed. There's also a missed opportunity. Say they kept the aspect of having Jet make her use her powers for his own benefit. It would have made the scene where he invoked memories of her mom to waterbend better. It would be more heartbreaking because he used something deeply personal to manipulate Katara. If they didn't go through it so quickly, the betrayal would hit harder. This is why trying to combine several episodes is such a bad idea. Since you do that, you can't have an entire episode dedicated to a single conflict. Another aspect that made Katara's character so great was her role as the group's mother figure, providing comfort when needed.
She's very motherly, and she's very protective of Sokka, her brother, although she does tend to get very frustrated with his immaturity.
There's multiple times where Aang is emotionally overwhelmed, and Katara is always there for him.
She'll protect Aang at all costs kind of thing.
Yeah, we definitely play up that motherly quality in her.
When they go to the Northern Air Temple, Aang was hoping to see his family. Katara knows they're all dead, and she does everything she possibly can to protect him from the truth, going as far as to hide the truth from him. When he does find Gyatso's dead body, she's the one to get him out of his destructive rage. It's one of the most powerful moments in the series. Another time is when they come across a piece of land the Fire Nation had destroyed. Aang blames himself for failing to protect nature. She comforts him by pointing out that everything will grow back, telling him not to be so hard on himself. They do try to adapt this in the remake, but it's not as good. Firstly, it's because they don't establish that Katara is passionate about the motherly role, because apparently that's offensive and problematic, so they removed it, even though she took on that role because she loved her mom. But whatever, there's hardly any times where she tries to comfort others, and when they try to pull off those specific moments, it falls flat because there's barely any time given to develop these characters. Speaking of undeveloped, let's talk about everything with her as a waterbender. This is probably the most fundamental part of her character. It's important to her culture. She thinks it's her responsibility to be a waterbending master. Because she's the last waterbender in her village, she is so desperate to get out of this place that holds her back from fulfilling her potential. It's easy to get on board with her quest because she's so genuine, which makes her instantly likable. Her desire to learn is so bad that she wants Aang to teach her when he's an airbender, which conveys how desperate she is, because based on the information she has at the time, Katara has no idea he can waterbend. Wow, isn't that great? Motivations communicated subtly. Wish the creators of the Netflix version had taken more notes from the show, but it also exposes why Katara initially likes Aang. He is one of the only people in her life who actually gives her a chance at mastering waterbending and getting out of her small world. I love how the show communicates her growth as a waterbender throughout the season. As it goes on, there's a gradual progression in terms of the feats she can pull off. When she does cool new things, it takes a lot of practice.
Even though some of our characters have supernatural abilities, we always try to show that they're earned and that they have to develop the skills and a lot of trial and error and hard work and practice.
And she eventually becomes a master. It feels slightly rushed.
So now this is kind of like, you know, a couple weeks after episode 18, and Katara's learned a lot since last time we saw her.
But it's not too big of a deal compared to the Netflix version. A lot of the practice in the remake is off screen. Katara constantly says she's confident in her powers, even though in the original show, we see that she is. It never had to tell us. She's now a pre-packaged master. She doesn't even need someone to teach her.
You found a master, haven't you?
Yes, you're looking at her.
Overall, the show takes away everything that made her special. She isn't fun to watch because Katara lacks that fiery personality, feeling like a block of wood. But the biggest sin is not having her earn the title of waterbending master.
You know, they had to be trained and they had to work and earn these skills. They weren't just like, I'm granted with these powers and I can do things.
Ultimately, rushing that arc. She's just a boring character. Really mature show, guys. It's glazing time, and today's subject is Dante Bosco, one of the best voice actors to live and a big reason Zuko is so awesome. He conveys a lot with so little. Whenever he says anything, you can feel there's a lot of history and deeper feelings behind that line.
This staff will make an excellent gift for my father. I suppose you wouldn't know of fathers.
Rewatching that particular exchange makes it better, especially given Zuko's complicated relationship with his dad. Not only is it a great line, but it also offers insight into the character's motivations. Dante Bosco is so awesome.
When we were casting Zuko, we said we wanted someone who could say one word but suggest like a lifetime of tension.
Unfortunately, the live action actor doesn't have this.
You're an enemy of the Fire Nation.
Now, onto something I actually like. Iroh's character is well executed. The only complaint I have is that he isn't goofy like in the original. Not only did his goofy nature give the show more personality, but it also made him more interesting. The show's goal was to subvert our expectations of him. At first, we think he's a bumbling idiot, but he's actually very smart. He used this reputation to outsmart others. It's something I wish the show kept, but it's not a big deal since a lot of his character is really well done. Another issue I have with Iroh's character is how they adapt aspects of the Storm storyline. For context, Zhao takes over Zuko's ship and tells the crew which way to go. Zuko gets super pissy about it. Iroh basically guilt trips them for following Zhao's orders even though they have to, but in the original, Iroh understands why they would have an issue with Zuko, because Zuko says he doesn't care about their safety. By the end, Iroh just helps them realize he's been through a lot and didn't mean what he said. I just don't like how the crew's painted in a negative light when they did nothing wrong. These are the only issues I have with Iroh's portrayal. What I like is how they explore his conflicted feelings about the war, something the original show didn't develop until later. It's the only character motivation that isn't said to the audience as if they're dumb babies. There's a scene with Iroh and an Earthbender that's probably my favorite scene in the entire show. The Earthbender revealed someone in the Fire Nation killed his little brother. Iroh has to be directly confronted by someone he affected in this pointless war. It's a great scene that shows Iroh's guilt and desire to end the war, but unfortunately, it isn't that simple. I wish every character was written this way. Another aspect of the character this remake remake gets right is Iroh's wisdom. There's multiple moments where Iroh gives Zuko valuable lessons about patience.
For me, it really was just being with Prince Zuko, being his mentor. And so for me, what was tantamount, what was paramount was making sure that relationship was there. It was truthful, it was authentic.
Whenever Zuko is freaking out, he's always there to help Zuko calm down. He also helps Zuko get information about the Avatar without revealing his intentions. There's a lot of nice, heartfelt moments between these characters. They really capture a part of their dynamic they had in the original, where you can tell Iroh deeply cares about Zuko. He's always standing up for him, knowing that there's more to him than a lot of people realize. Iroh hates to see Zuko disappointed because he's kind of impatient, and that keeps him from reaching his goals. As a character, they get Zuko right. Well, mostly. What made him special was that despite his horrible actions, there were understandable motivations behind those actions. The main one was his honor. Zuko was banished from his home until he found the Avatar. His honor hinges on the results of his mission. It's what defines him as a person. He believes that if he gets his honor back, his father will finally show him love. It's revealed in a flashback. Crew members were going to be sacrificed in a battle. Zuko calls out how horrible this is and gets challenged to an Agni Kai, but then he realized he was supposed to fight his dad. Zuko, being above the senseless violence, refuses to fight his father, but then his father injures him.
His father burned his eyeball off. It's so sweet. It was an act of love.
It's heartbreaking to see this kid basically get punished by his own father for his good nature. Knowing all of this makes it very easy to sympathize with Zuko. With all of that said, there's a few changes in the remake that slightly detract from his story. All of them have to do with the Agni Kai scene itself. The visuals are poor. I also hate how they decide to show Ozai's face. He is so much less intimidating that way, but the worst decision is to have Zuko actually fight Ozai. What takes the cake is that Zuko almost beats him. I'm sorry, how am I supposed to be scared of a character who could possibly be beaten by a 13-year-old? Now, Ozai isn't intimidating. They just wanted a cool fight and spectacle, but sacrificed Ozai's intimidation factor to get it. Another thing that annoys me is Zuko's scar. It looks like paint on his face, but originally, you can see there was significant damage done. You'd think a show that claims to be mature would actually put some effort into that, but guess not. Another issue I have with Zuko's character is that he's not intimidating. There isn't a single scene where I'm scared of him. I think it's because this show is live action, and it's way harder to make a child character intimidating, but in animation, you can avoid that problem. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how they handled Iroh and Zuko. Iroh as a character is great. They capture his wisdom really well. Zuko is really well done too. The only issues I have is with this actor. He's less intimidating, but they slightly take away from his story by prioritizing spectacle over real storytelling. But these characters are not totally ruined like everyone else, so let's see where they go. To put it simply, Zhao is badass. He was actually intimidating, and there's a few reasons for that. First of all, he was very intelligent. Like when he first sees Zuko and Iroh in episode 3 after Aang wrecked their ship, he could instantly tell they are lying about the circumstances of the ship's destruction. Zhao knows the Avatar is still alive, and eventually gets the truth from Zuko's crew. Zhao is really good at reading people, which gives him the ability to outsmart others. Another thing that made him a great villain was his overwhelming cruelty. He commonly uses people's insecurities against them.
But in his eyes, you are a failure.
But in this remake, they remove any moment where he outplays others. He gets told about the Avatar, instead of being able to see that Zuko and Iroh know more than they let on, and extracting the information from his crew. He also has to be told that Zuko is the Blue Spirit. Azula just lets him know. That would be fine if he had other opportunities to display his intelligence. Did they forget the reason he learned the information in the way that he did? It was meant to show he can quickly figure things out. The show treats these elements as completely unimportant, and the writing suffers because of it. But the worst thing is that he literally failed his training multiple times. How am I supposed to be scared by a villain that's too stupid to pass his training? It also makes the Fire Nation look bad. If he's this stupid, why would they let him be in a commander position? Fucking whatever. Even when they try to show him as intelligent and doesn't work, because all of his plan to end up working by luck, like when he tries to kill Zuko. He plans to get one of his lieutenants to tell Zuko that he's going to stand trial for treason. This leads Zuko to leave on this boat that's rigged with explosives. He's lucky that Zuko's lieutenant overheard this specific conversation to bait him. What if he didn't hear this? His plan would be fucked. In the original, the plan made more sense. Zhao hired pirates to kill him. They had a beef with Zuko in a previous episode, so it's easier to pin the blame on them. Also, after Zuko's alleged death, when Iroh says he might know who did this, Zhao makes sure to keep calm as to not give anything away. Also, him thinking that Iroh didn't know wasn't due to stupidity. He underestimated Iroh's intelligence. After all, he sees Iroh as a lesser human. We can see that Iroh is faking, but Zhao doesn't think he's clever enough to do that. It was an extension of his ego. There are multiple parts to his narcissistic personality. First is his fragile ego. He hates to look weak in any way. A big example is his rivalry with Zuko. When he beats him in an Agni Kai, he's pissed beyond belief. Zhao hates that a kid he sees as a spoiled brat, who's been given everything to him his whole life, beat him. That's where their rivalry begins, and I love it. They are both racing to find the Avatar for different reasons.
Any scene between Zuko and Zhao is just awesome. Their egos are so big and so much tension, and they both kind of want the same thing. They both want the Fire Lord's approval. And
Zuko has an understandable goal, but for Zhao, it's entirely fueled by the need to uphold his image. It's all a vanity project.
But my search for the Avatar is
nothing but a vanity project.
He literally manipulates the testimonials to make him look as good as possible.
Along with glowing testimonials from all of the ranking officers.
He definitely jerks off when he sees himself in the mirror. He even sabotages his own people for status.
I knew then that these spirits could be found and killed. And that it was my destiny to do so.
Zhao, the spirits are not to be trifled with.
It's ironic that Zhao constantly calls Zuko some unloyal little shit, but his plan will literally destroy the Fire Nation.
It's my destiny to destroy the moon and the water tribe.
Destroying the moon won't hurt just the water tribe. It will hurt everyone.
Hypocrisy at its finest. As long as he's known as the God Killer, that's all that matters. But this remake does not do justice to those moments. He's still driven by vanity, but it's not very developed. Remember how I mentioned that Zhao was manipulating testimonials to make him look better? But now, he only cares about dumb shit.
Change loyal to faithful. Sounds more personal.
Did they miss the point of this scene? Why am I asking that question? Of course they did. That wasn't there for no reason. It was to show that every decision was motivated by his vanity, not that he cares about small shit. Worst of all, his rivalry with Zuko is hollow, not like the original where there was a lot of tension and you could see their specific issues with each other. It's a simple, oh, they hate each other. The Agni Kai was removed, which is very important to their dynamic. In the OG, he and Zuko had a fight in the final episode. Zuko defeats him and the ocean spirit grabs Zhao. Zuko is a good person, so he offers his hand, but Zhao refuses to take it because it's beneath him. He can't be seen as someone who needs saving. It's so awesome. By the way, I'm not saying him being prideful is awesome. I mean from a writing perspective. In this version, he just gets hit by a fireball.
That motherfucker did.
Yeah, because who cares about having a death that's actually meaningful when you could have a dumb gore kill? That's way more mature and more gooder. Which is weird because the original show did not really prioritize violence.
But it's a kids network, and we couldn't just have straight up violence. And that's honestly not something Mike and I were interested in anyway.
Zhao is completely assassinated in this adaptation. First of all, the performance is weak. He's not intimidating because he's an idiot, but worst of all, his death is so lame. It's a quick 2-second moment instead of something that wrapped up his arc. Good job, guys. Besides a few exceptions, the characters have been completely butchered. The biggest problem is how they're written with no flaws.
My guess, the thing that really resonated with people are those character arcs where people actually change and they learn, they make mistakes, and they have to pay for those mistakes. And
the writers were too afraid to make them unlikable, but the flaws are what made the characters so great in the first place. If there's no place to grow from, you can't have any growth. From the first season, everybody is fucked. It's catastrophic. With all of that out of the way, let's move on. The Presentation is easily one of the main reasons for the show's success. This is a story that can only be told through animation. That's because it gives the creators room to do anything they want. They use animation to its fullest potential. The show uses visuals to imply things about the characters. Like in episode 3 before the Agni Kai that Zuko has with Zhao.
Zuko, have you forgotten what happened last time you dueled the master?
I will never forget.
Not only does it look cool, it makes me wonder about the backstory behind that scar. It serves multiple purposes. It doesn't stop at serious character stuff. There's a great scene transition in episode 4.
He is clearly a master of evasive maneuvering. You have no idea where you're going, do you?
Not only is this funny, but it also communicates how lost Aang is. The show is really good at elevating jokes with its animation.
Then of course it's gonna come true!
I think these do a great job of emphasizing the character's emotion when saying those lines, which makes the cut to silence even funnier. Some of the jokes are improved through sound effects as well.
Stop it!
Another thing I love about the show's presentation is that whenever you see a new power or location, it always feels epic. Like with the Omashu, or the Water Tribe in the North Pole. It may seem small, but this effort makes the long journey to these locations feel satisfying. Another great instance is the first scene where we see the Avatar state. It's so epic and gets you interested into how the Avatar state works. But it also sparks curiosity about what other powers people have in this world. They really use the medium to enhance every detail. That can only be done with animation. The live action show is automatically at a disadvantage. You can't pull off the great visual gags from the original show that gave it personality because they don't translate. But other than missing presentation choices, it straight up looks bad. They use the volume, which can help actors get into character, because before they would have to use a green screen, which is a good piece of technology, but actors don't really have anything to act against. With the volume, you can eliminate that problem, since actors can see the place they're supposed to be in. But recently, filmmakers have gotten lazy, putting no effort into making it look real. It never feels like the characters are actually there. Nothing in this series has any weight to it, especially the action. Some of the bending scenes are okay, but most of the action sucks. The action from the original show had so much tension. Like in the second episode when Aang escapes from the Fire Nation ship, he's handcuffed, so it's way more exciting because now the main hero can't get out of the situation easily. It also shows how skilled he is. He has clearly mastered airbending to the point where he can perform well with fewer resources. Later on in the same sequence, there's a great fight between Zuko and Aang that takes place in this small room. They don't have much space to work with. That adds so much intensity to the fight. Another great moment of tension is in the final battle. Aang is on his own. It takes a lot of effort for Aang to take down one single ship. He has to be creative. This makes the reveal that there are many Fire Nation ships incredibly effective because it shows how massive of a task it is.
And he takes out this Fire Nation ship and we see how hard it is to do that, and he does it and he succeeds, but then you see that
that's one ship.
That's one out of hundreds of ships.
But in the remake, he's surrounded by others. There's nothing creative or cool going on, just everyone spamming their powers. Speaking of the final battle, what I like is how they kept introducing new threats mid-battle. There is always a new physical danger emerging. It constantly ramps up the stakes. But while those elements really work, there's a shit ton of attention to detail that makes everything so much better. Especially in the Boomy fight, the show really makes sure the different bending styles look distinct. It makes the fight scenes more interesting to watch because each person has a different fighting style. There's immediate tension because Boomy uses Aang's tactics against him.
Typical airbender tactic. Avoid and evade.
But later on, Aang switches up his tactics and Boomy admires him, making a character have to get out of his comfort zone and try new strategies he hasn't used before makes an action scene more fun to watch. One of my favorite parts of the fight is when Aang dodges a rock that Boomy throws at him. There's a nice shot where Aang appears stretched out, showing how much he struggles to get over the rock. He only has a second to react. It may seem small, but all of those little details that filmmakers pay attention to are what make it work. But in the remake, Aang just looks stressed out. It was once a great moment of triumph, but now it's a footnote in a lame, boring, turn-based fight. But the strongest element of the show's action is how it serves as an opportunity to further develop the characters.
We absolutely love showing characters' development and personality and what they learn and their abilities.
In episode 2, Zuko is constantly firing off shots with no regard. This further develops his impatience, which was established earlier.
No, you're impatient.
This impatience is why Aang can beat him easily, but later Zuko learns from it. This also shows how Aang is good at taking advantage of someone's weakness. This comes back in episode 16 in the fight with Zhao. So overall, this remake lacks the style of the original, but that's kind of decided from the beginning, because a lot of the silly stuff like the visual gags or funny sound effects wouldn't work in live action, so they don't even try. But even with the resources they have, the filmmakers don't do much with them. This is what happens when you remove the animation from an animated show. It was never going to work. I don't think I've seen a show pander to its audience more than this one, which is ironic considering the writers think this is a mature Game of Thrones type series, because there's a few dumb gore kills for the babies watching to clap at. It's funny considering the original show never did this, even though it mainly appealed to children, but this show that pretends to be for adults can't help but explain everything to the audience. I've already talked about how a lot of characters just say what they're feeling, so I'm not going to really go over that, but another way the show treats the audience like idiots is the constant key jangling. They bring up references from the original show to make people clap because it's something they know. The library spirit is there for fan service. The fact that he never leaves his library isn't present. It just robs his character of his convictions. They changed the Ko sequence in order to insert a comic reference, but the worst example of key jangling is in the first episode, when Gran recites the original show's intro for no reason.
Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony.
First of all, it's really awkward and forced because everybody knows this information, but it completely ruins one of the most important scenes from the original. Aang finding out his people are dead, he just runs out. We barely get to see his reaction. This show cares more about pandering to fans than creating a narrative. The result is a worse story. This level of pandering is insane, considering it's adapting Avatar: The Last Airbender, a show that was great in part because it respected the audience. The creators knew people can pick up on little things, but this remake doesn't seem to think so. This show isn't mature, it's cowardly and pandering. I hate to say this, but this series was doomed to fail. Avatar is one of those shows that doesn't work in live action. First of all, you have less room for these quote-unquote filler episodes. It results in there being less time to develop the characters. A lot of them are a shell of who they are, and they don't grow by the end of the season. Another thing this series automatically loses is the animated version stylistic choices, which don't translate.
And it's also difficult to try to adapt the comedy in the animated series and then translate that.
Yeah, sometimes in the animated show they're doing stuff that like literally you physically can't do.
You can't do the exaggerated facial animations or these nice effects that elevate simple jokes. Instead, we get a bland looking show. The action has no weight to it. There's no tension because I don't care about what's happening. Even though the show is bad, it doesn't ruin the animated series, but it proves exactly why live action versions of animated shows don't work.
Animation to live action is not batting 1,000.
Yet that doesn't stop Hollywood from pumping them out. I have no real faith in season 2, so if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe, and if you didn't, jog on.